The hide unchecked filters are probably the most misunderstood and misused filters in Reloader's workshop. So I thought it might be handy to go over exactly how they work and what the difference is between the hide unchecked filters and other filters in the program. Now, most of the tabs in Reloaded's workshop have these filters at the top. For example, here I am on the supplies tab. I'm looking at bullets, and I can select a particular caliber. For instance, I only want to see bullets that are usable for 32 automatic, or I only want to see bullets usable for 223 Remington, that sort of thing. Now those filters are local filters. They only affect the information that you see on that tab. Okay. Same thing with the load data tab. We have firearm type, we have caliber, bullet, powder. Those are all local filters that allow us to pare down some of the information that you see on these tabs. For example, the supplies tab, bullets, there's 167 handgun bullets and 322 rifle bullets in my database here. And that can be a little bit overwhelming, and trying to find a particular bullet or a particular type of component, it can be a little difficult. So, we have these filters up here. Now, the difference between these filters, which are local filters, and the hide unchecked filters, the hide unchecked filters are system-wide. They affect all the tabs, not just the tab that you're looking at. So it's important that you understand exactly how they work and how they're going to affect other areas in Reloader's workshop. There are two hide unchecked filters in Reloader's workshop. One is on the calibers tab right up here at the top, the hide unchecked checkbox here. The other is on the supplies tab. You'll see there's also a hide unchecked checkbox here on the supplies tab. Let's take a look at the calibers tab first. Now, as you might expect, the hide unchecked filter will hide calibers that are unchecked. You'll notice that each of the calibers in the list here has a checkbox next to it, and I've gone ahead and checked the calibers that I use in my day-to-day reloading. Now, if I then click on Hide Unchecked, you'll see that all the calibers that do not have a check mark are hidden, as you would expect with the Hide Unchecked filter. Remember, though, the Hide Unchecked filter is system-wide. So by checking this Hide Unchecked filter, I've changed how all of the other tabs work. Let me show you what I mean. I'm going to uncheck the Hide Unchecked filter. So now I have all my calibers showing here. Now if I come over here to the Firearms tab, and I go to add a new firearm. Well, one of the things I need to do when I add a new firearm is add the usable cartridges. Well, down here I can click on select a cartridge, and I see all the calibers that are in my database, or all the cartridges in my database. Okay. Now if I come back and look at the calibers tab, and I click on the hide uncheck filter and come back to my firearms, now when I go to add a firearm, under select cartridge, I only see cartridges that I have checked on the calibers tab. These are the handgun cartridges. If I select rifle up here, I'll only see the rifle cartridges that I have checked on the calibers tab. Okay. Same thing with load data. For example, if I want to add a new load, and when I go to select a caliber, it only shows me the rifle calibers here that I have checked. Change this to handgun, and now you'll see just the handgun calibers that are checked. Okay, so that hide unchecked filter on the calibers tab helps me pare down all of that data that is in my database so that I only see the ones that I'm interested in. In this case, the calibers or cartridges that I'm interested in. Okay. Now, in addition to filtering the drop-down combo boxes that you see where you get to select a caliber, it also affects what you see on each of the tabs. For example, here on my load data tab, I have two loads. I have a load for 223 Remington and I have a load for 308 Winchester. Now, if I come back to the calibers tab, and let's say I uncheck 223 Remington, okay? Now when I come back to the load data tab, you'll see that the 223 Remington load is no longer there, okay? So if you're missing something, if you're looking at your load data tab, for example, and you're missing a load, or you don't see them on the screen, that could be why. You could have your calibers, hide unchecked calibers filter selected, and you don't have all of your calibers actually checked. So if I check 223 Remington again, you'll see that now both 223 Remington and 308 Winchester loads are there. Same thing on batch data. Here I have two batches. I have a 223 Remington batch. I have a 308 Winchester batch. Okay? If I uncheck 308 Winchester, for example, on my calibers tab, now you'll see that the 308 Winchester batch is no longer there because it's not checked. I have hide unchecked filter turned on, so Reloaded's Workshop assumes that I am no longer interested in 308 Winchester. Okay? Go ahead and recheck that. And come back to batch data, and now you'll see my 308 Winchester batch is back. Okay? So remember, these hide uncheck filters are system-wide. They don't just affect what you're looking at on that tab. They affect everything else in Reloaded's Workshop. Now, one thing that is a little more complicated than just seeing it or not seeing it are the bullets on the supplies tab. Okay? I'm going to go ahead and uncheck my hide uncheck filter on the calibers tab and come back to supplies. And you'll see here, written in black, it says 167 handgun and 322 rifle bullets. It says all bullets are displayed. Okay? This is telling you that there are no filters or no hide unchecked filters selected. Okay, so remember this, 167 handgun, 322 rifle, all bullets are displayed. Now if I come over here to the calibers tab, and I click on that hide unchecked filter, when I come back to the supplies tab, look what happens. This is turned to reddish, it's kind of a maroon really, but it tells me 29 handgun, 104 rifle bullets are listed, and it says only bullets usable in the selected calibers are displayed. Okay, that's because the hide unchecked filter has been turned on. So if you see this in red, you know that not all of your bullets are being displayed because those bullets aren't usable in those calibers. Okay, let me turn this off here and come back. Well, if I take a look at a bullet, say I'll look at this one here, you see under cartridge specific data there's a number of calibers or cartridge types that are listed here. And what that means is this particular bullet, the Lapua 2279 bullet, is usable in these calibers. 22 250 Remington, 223 Remington service rifle, etc., etc. Okay? So in order for this bullet to show up on the supplies tab with the hide unchecked filter turned on, that means that one of the checked calibers has to be in that bullet's list of calibers here. So this is probably the most asked question I get on the support forums is why doesn't my bullet show up? Well, it's because you have the hide unchecked calibers filter turned on, and that bullet is not usable in any of those calibers. Okay, so that's the answer. That's 99.9% of the time, that's what the problem is. That's why you don't see your bullet. Okay. Now cases are a little more direct, since a case is usable only on one particular cartridge, with the exception of Wildcats and things. But for the most part, they're only usable on one particular cartridge. And it has the same thing here. It says only cases usable in the selected calibers are displayed. That tells me that the caliber hide unchecked filters is turned on, and it's not showing me any cases that are not in an unchecked caliber. Okay. Now, powders and primers aren't affected by which cartridge, so it always says all powders are displayed, or all primers are displayed in black. So that they're not affected by the hide uncheck filter on the calibers tab. Okay. So that's the hide uncheck filter on the calibers tab. Now, if I move over here to the supplies tab, see that it also has a hide unchecked filter. Now this is a more direct filter where you can filter out bullets or cases or primers or powders, any of the four reloading components that you don't use on a day-to-day basis. Okay. Now if I look over here at my load data, I have a load that uses the Hornady 2267 bullet for 223 Remington. I also have a load here that uses the Hornady 3037 bullet for a 308 Winchester cartridge. Okay, so I'm going to come over here to my supplies tab, and I'm going to hit the hide unchecked filter, and I see that I have both the 2267 and the 3037 Hornady bullets checked. Okay, and the hide uncheck filter is turned on. If I look over here in load data, I still see my same two loads. Same thing with the batch data. I have my same two batches that I've always had, my 223 Remington and my 308 Winchester batch. Okay. Now, again, the hide uncheck filter on the supplies tab is also a system-wide filter. Okay. So for example, if I uncheck the 3037 bullet on the supplies tab, when I come over to load data, you'll see that my 308 Winchester load has disappeared. That's because the bullet that it used was the 3037, and I've told Reloaded's WorkShop that I do not want to see anything with the Hornady 3037 bullet because it is unchecked and I have the hide unchecked filter turned on. Okay, exact same thing with batch data. My 308 Winchester batch has disappeared because the 3037 bullet that it uses is not checked on the supplies tab. Okay, let me go ahead and check that again, and you'll see now my 308 Winchester load and my 308 Winchester batch has reappeared. Okay, so the supplies tab again affects everything in Reloaded's WorkShop. It's a system-wide filter, the hide unchecked filter. These filters here are simply uh, local filters. The bullet, the caliber, the manufacturer, firearm type. They only affect what I see on this tab. They have absolutely no effect on the load data, batch data, or any other tab. Okay? It's only that hide unchecked filter that is system-wide that affects all the other tabs. Okay? Now, another thing about the supplies tab is that I'm going to turn off the hide uncheck filter here so I see everything. It's able to display all four of the different components that I use in reloading: bullets, cases, powders, and primers. Okay? Clicking on the hide unchecked affects all four components. So I'm looking at my primers right now. If I turn on hide unchecked, you'll see that I have my Winchester large rifle and Winchester small rifle primers selected. Okay? So, and that's what the two loads that I have are, the small rifle and large rifle Winchester primers. Okay, if I were to uncheck one of those, say I uncheck the large rifle primer, you'll see that my 308 Winchester load has disappeared, and so has my 308 Winchester batch. Okay, so when you turn on the hide unchecked filter on the supplies tab, remember that it affects all four of the reloading components: bullets, cases, powder, and primers. Okay, so you should not turn that on until you've gone through all four of the component types and selected all the powders that you use, the cases that you use, primers, bullets, everything before you turn on the Hide Unchecked filter. Okay? So you can see how the Hide Unchecked filters have a system-wide effect. So if you're missing data somewhere, it's probably because you have a Hide Unchecked filter turned on and you have not properly set up Reloaders Workshop to tell it, I'm interested in these bullets, these powders, these calibers, etc. Okay? So a good rule of thumb, number one, if you're missing data, turn off your Hide Unchecked filters and see if the data reappears. Okay? If you are in setup, if you want to set up your calibers or cartridges and your supplies, bullets, cases, powders, and primers, turn the Hide Unchecked filters off first, and then go in and set up your components and calibers. If you're working with firearms, load data, batch data, ammunition tab, ballistics tab, any of the other tabs besides calibers and supplies, you can turn the Hide Unchecked filters on, but if you find that there's data missing, then you have not properly set up Reloaders Workshop to use the Hide Unchecked filters. Okay? The obvious, easy answer is to never turn them on, and you'll always see everything. But then you have to wade through, uh, hundreds of cartridge types every time you want to select a caliber. Okay? So go in and set up Reloaders Workshop first. Check all the calibers that you use. Check all the bullets and supplies. If you have all that set up and you go out and you buy a new set of bullets that you've never used before, turn the Hide Unchecked filters off. Go into your bullet database. Add your bullet. Check it. And then turn the Hide Unchecked filters back on. Okay? So, calibers and supplies tab, turn them off. Any other tab, you can have them turned on, unless you find you're missing data. Okay? I hope that helps clear up some of the misunderstanding about how the Hide Unchecked filters work. Okay? I can't tell you how many times I get, this bullet's in my database, it tells me it's in the database, but I can't see it anywhere. It's because you have your Hide Unchecked filters turned on and you haven't properly set up Reloaders Workshop. Okay? Thanks a lot.